If I get Mr. Moss to say a word here before we convene the meeting.
Bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Gracious Father, we thank you for this gathering today. Thank you for our citizens and our council and the maintenance crews that keep us running, the clerk's office that keep us running, the police and fire departments that keep us safe. We pray, Lord, for all their safety and for the safety of all of us. We pray, Lord, that you grant us your guidance so that we can find our way into the future. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Attica City Council, 7/22/24. Clerk, would please call roll.
Mayor Grant.
Present.
Mrs. DeLong.
Present.
Mr. Moss.
Present.
Mr. Voorhees. Mrs. Carnahan.
Present.
Mr. Roderick.
Present.
Attorney Bars.
Present.
Okay, Mayor. Oh, junior council, I don't see any junior
No
council.
junior council here tonight.
Okay.
Our first order of business tonight is a request for an alley vacation from Crestline Homes for the 6th Street development. And I'll go ahead and let them present their question here. And I think our attorney has that all prepared, but
Yeah, so you want me to just kind of
if you'd like to.
Okay, so they're buying the old First Methodist, Free Methodist, sorry, lot. There's an alley running in between it. I would also just note, just as we get started here for these two requests, these are all in the very preliminary stages of planning. Nothing is for certain yet in terms of how they go forward. So a little bit of flexibility, and I'm sure they will work with us as the permitting and the building permits and the drainage permits and the sewer and water permits all kind of progress. This is an alley vacation so that their building can straddle both lots without the alley running through it. And I believe they've negotiated or they've talked to the adjacent owner and they've got most of those problems worked out. And I'm sure that they will be smoothed out as building proceeds too and designs get finalized. So first one is an ordinance to vacate that alley. That'll be A, if you guys decide to pass it, that'll get recorded. And then that alley will be vacated. And it's just in between the two lots. It's not all the way down to Mr. Jordan's property. It's just between the two lots.
I believe Mr. Jordan is here and he has been working with the developer to come up with a plan. Have you got a chance to look at that yet? Or
I just saw it. I'd like to go and see if it works. Because, I mean, they did do some, and it may work. But I'd like to go and lay it out and make sure that if it works. But I would like to extend my privacy fence, which, is on my property, to separate me from this building,
I do have copies of the drawing. Did you get one of those, Mr. Jordan?
Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
And, what he just showed me on his, which I presume is this.
Should be the same, yeah.
Okay, what he showed me on the computer, is this,
Yeah, that's it, because it's got the circle. I could just zoom in on it on the computer.
yeah, on the computer, I can see it a lot better. But I'd like to go and, make sure.
So be back in, what, 10 minutes? I'm kidding.
It wouldn't take me long to go home.
I'm kidding.
But I'd have to draw, I'd chalk it out on the ground and see if I can make that work. If not, I could build another garage next to my house.
But we don't want you to have to do that. And I don't think they do either.
Well, I mean, I know that in the blacktop that is there, I can't get back in my garage. I can get out.
I went up and looked at it.
Yeah.
And I see your
Yeah,
problem.
I mean, the truck's 17 foot long.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how you want to look at it, but the church lot has always been there, and it's made it really, really easy.
Oh, absolutely.
And-
I drive in at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can drive right into my truck.
Right.
Into my
So
garage.
I understand with the church lot going away, that makes it that much
Yeah.
more difficult to get in and out.
Yes,
So-
absolutely. I mean, and this is, you know, I don't want to be obstinate or anything, and I know that this is gonna happen some way or another. But I just want to.
Well, they've shown a desire to help make sure everybody's reasonably happy. And
Yes, well, that's
so
That's
can we
important
move
to me.
forward with
I would go ahead.
based pending his okey dokey?
Yeah, I would say I would go ahead and approve it, and then as they get further into development and things like that, then with building permits, they'll work it out with him.
Is that okay with
Are
you?
you?
yeah. I mean, if I could chalk it out on the ground and see if I can make this.
Yeah, I was
Work.
this isn't the final step either. There'll be building permits, things like that. So I don't think that they're going to start, for like a year or so. But there'll be other people checking in on this too. It's not like we vacate the alley that it just goes from here.
Yeah, and I mean, but I've been thinking about, well, I could just put a garage next to my house, come in from Columbia Street and not be a problem. But I do realize that if there's 40 apartments, some of them are 3-bedroom apartments, this could be up to 100 people living there. I mean, not necessarily, at least 40, I'm assuming. There's gonna be a lot of traffic and a lot of parking issues. I mean, that's another side of the coin. But the part that I'm.
You're worried about your garage.
Yes. Yes. There we go.
So, Crestline, do you have any comment or anything for one?
No, I appreciate the attitude and being able to work together, and I think, ultimately we're committed to being good neighbors.
That's appreciated.
A motion on that one if you're ready.
So, do we have a motion to approve vacation of the alley pending Mr. Jordan's ability to get in and out of his garage successfully?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-022A as written.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next thing on the agenda is the tax abatement request for Crestline for the 6th Street development. And I think that went to the redevelopment committee, although it really didn't have to. I think they approved that unanimously.
They did.
I'm sad I wasn't. They did.
They did.
They did. So do you have any details on that you'd like to share with the council?
So the tax abatement process we went through this last year with another tax abatement applicant is you guys passed the declaratory resolution at your July 8th meeting. The redevelopment commission has reviewed this and they have blessed it. Tonight there's the confirmatory resolution for the tax abatement. And as a reminder, they had initially asked for a 10-year 100% abatement, and the city usually uses a 10% declining scale over 10 years. So we've split the baby and it's 5%, 100% abated, and then moves to the sliding scale, and that meets their financial obligations for their grant application as well. So if you do this, and I think it'll begin for 2025, pay 2026 or the year prior, and then it'll be a 10-year abatement, and I believe that they're looking at a 40-year commitment overall. So you guys will have, there'll still be good tax base coming into the city too. It's not like you guys are giving up a lot in terms of tax dollars.
Any questions, comments from the council? Any public questions, comments? Do we have a motion?
I guess I'll make a motion for, we approve resolution number 2024-0722. You want that to be A or B?
B, please.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? All in favor? Unanimous. Motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to the main topic here tonight. And
Thank you for driving
thank you,
down.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
This hearing will be for Finch on Main Street development from North Arrow Partners to develop age 55 and up senior housing in the city of Attica off of East Main Street. They're requesting a 3.02 acre tract to be rezoned from suburban to R3 in order to build a 32 unit senior living project. And before we get into that, I should mention that some new information came my way here just a little while ago. If you look at the zoning map, half of that lot that we're talking about is already zoned as light industrial. And I had to go back and look at the map when I got back in the office this afternoon. I thought I had some
I
copies.
said I gave you. Yeah, I pulled it. There they are. That was for you.
So that may or may not change some of your thinking in that half of that is already zoned light industrial. So if somebody came and wanted to put a light industry in there, they don't have to ask for a rezoning. It's already zoned that way, which could cause maybe worse problems than what we're talking about here tonight.
You said that just came to you. Can we see what?
You sure
section?
can.
Here.
All the gray is
If
light
it
industrial.
makes- if the
and
map
this
makes
is the
sense
lot.
to you.
That's the only part
Here,
that's
Jeff.
suburban. All the rest of it's
There we
light
go.
Okay,
industrial.
so this is already
you.
the highway
That's like-
frontage existing.
Yes.
It's just the
That, no, that and this piece right here. Well, yeah, the back part.
So the portion on the right-hand side that they have circled is already
Yeah, it's up on
zoned
the
light
map, too.
industrial.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I was not aware of that, and I went back and took a second look when I got back in the office this afternoon, and indeed it was. And I was led to believe that it was all suburban going into this, but it is not. So just some food for thought there. I don't know whether it changed anything or not. I mean, you still couldn't put R3 in a light industrial, I don't believe. But you could actually put R3 in a suburban with a okey dokey, so to speak, a non-conforming use from the BZA, the way I read it.
So is the request from them to rezone the entire
Absolutely.
thing and go from industrial as
Yes.
well? Okay.
Yes.
Can I clarify something, Mark? I thought the original request was not to change zoning. Because this is a suburban tract, I thought the original request should have been to grant a special exception to use multifamily proper, to allow multifamily
I
property.
believe that the email that I have said we're going to go ahead and request an R3.
I think that's what I read.
And I
Well,
know, I know we
that
talked back
originally there
and
was some
forth.
discussion to rezone this commercial,
Yes.
because in the discussion was,
And
there are several examples in Attica that commercial properties being used for multifamily.
including the property up on North Street. It's commercial. Yes. But I think the email came back and said that we were going to, we being these guys, were going to request an R3 zoning. And that's where we went forward with this to the zoning board.
John, would you have?
I'm okay with whatever allows for it. I mean, it doesn't, rezoning it or a special use permit or an exception, it's okay with me.
And the only reason I digress here is because of this new information. I had it all laid out here on the agenda on how that I'd foreseen this thing to move forward tonight or not move forward. But just wanted everybody to be aware of this going in. So with that being said, what I've done is laid out an agenda. There are some copies, I think, or at least maybe one up there of the agenda. I did put a time limit on, so we're not here till midnight tonight. And I would appreciate that as everybody talks, whether for or against, that we don't interrupt them, allow them to speak. And then if there's questions, we can come back and do that. And we'll try to be as civil as possible here. With that being said, I'd like to turn it over to the Attica Advisory Plan Commission, and they can reiterate their recommendations and concerns from their meeting the other night.
Okay. I'm Denise Robson, you know, but you need that. We have some concerns. First of all, we did not approve this. It was a vote of 100% against it for some basic reasons. The entrance to the facility, we don't feel like the path leading to the back to all the houses is sufficient as far as how wide it is. We feel like it needs to be a two-lane road back there to this facility. With how close the plans were originally to the houses, we couldn't give a favorable recommendation, but we have recently seen new plans where they've turned it and it's further away. We don't have an issue with this, providing some other questions. We would prefer an entrance off of Long Lane instead of off of where it is coming in at, off that gravel lane. It's not really a road. We're concerned about this drain, if any, that it will put on current city utilities. And we're wanting to know whether or not Attica or Warren County people have first dibs on the apartments. And what kind of trees or shrubs do they plan to plant as the natural barriers? We see that there's going to be plants up there for barrier. And if they die, will there be something to replace it? Will that be something that will be taken care of immediately? Also, will these apartments be Section 8? Senior living apartments? If not, how will they be paid for? And what will the price point be on these apartments? Because most seniors in this area don't have a whole lot because they're on fixed incomes. What kind of rules will you have in place in case of any kind of issues, such as fighting trash on ground, broken vehicles, vehicles that don't move, or loud noise violations, anything along that line that will keep the noise down and the sanctity of the area? So those are kind of what we had in mind and what we would like answers to.
May I clarify something procedurally?
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, so the planning commission had their meeting on the rezoning, and at the end of a rezoning, a planning commission can either provide a favorable, an unfavorable, or no recommendation. It is up to you all whether you want to grant that ordinance or pass that ordinance. You don't necessarily, I mean, I recommend taking the APC's concerns into your vote and your decision, but you don't necessarily have to. They're more of a guiding board for you. You're not bound by their decision. You can also ask that they review it again and send it back to you. I don't think you have time for that, nor do I think that's necessary. You'd have to call another meeting for that. But just so you know, you should listen to them, but you're not bound by their unfavorable recommendation. And I have a copy of that here if anybody wants to see it.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, go ahead and give the North Arrow Properties a 15-minute opportunity and their partners to describe their plans for the property and address known public concerns.
Sure. Well, thank you. I want to introduce myself to you. My name is John Cronin. I'm with North Arrow Partners, and I'm here to talk to you about the Finch on Main, which is a proposed senior residence building. Let me tell you a little bit about us first, just so you know who I am. I'm an architect by training. We have a small company in Illinois that we specialize in developing, designing, and building residential properties, and tend to focus on smaller communities in Illinois and Iowa, and now we're trying to be here in Indiana as well. We do senior. We try to build and develop housing for seniors, for families, for people with special needs, and our focus is really that. So we're really pleased to be here in Attica. We're excited about it. I think that the reason that we're here is we are a growing company, and we're looking to grow into Indiana, our next door neighbor. And Attica in particular is a community that is experiencing growth. There's stability, there's jobs, and there's probably most importantly is that there's really a need. There's a need for new housing, new homes for seniors. And this is what we're hoping to bring to Attica. So I wanted to tell you about what we're proposing. First of all, our site selection. We spent a good deal of time trying to find the right site in Attica that would be appropriate for what we want to be a good neighbor. We want to be a place that we want to try to build in the context of the community so that we are in an appropriate location. A location that would be close to amenities and that would be in an area of growth. Obviously, the land size is a factor, but we also selected this site because of what we thought was appropriate in terms of zoning. Now, granted, it requires a rezoning or a special use permit, however we designate that. But the idea of, in terms of best practices of zoning, it's very typical that you would you'd have a commercial properties or heavy usage along the main drag, and then behind it would go to multifamily, and then beyond that would be single family. So the idea of a multifamily, particularly like a senior residence building of 32 residences, seemed like an appropriate fit for this particular site. I know the site has its challenges too. You know, nothing's ever perfect, but I think that, you know, when we came last week, when we proposed to the Zoning and Planning Commission, what our idea was at that time, we listened. You know, we were aware of what the residents, their objections, their concerns, things like that. And so we really want to be responsive to that. So we took some time, we reoriented the building, and before it was a single story building, which is nice. It's on one level, but it's a larger footprint when it's that way. So we changed it to a proposed two-story residence building. And by doing that, we can reduce the footprint of it. We turned it around so that it kind of faced to the south, and we pushed it as far south as we really could, away from the residents, the single-family homes there to the north and to the west. The access drive is the access drive, and I know that you mentioned the idea of trying to connect to Long Street to the east there, to the southeast, and you know that was something to look at, but it's not very straightforward. There's two separate property owners that would have to grant easement. Long Street itself is a private drive; it's not a public roadway, so it was a little bit more complex and a little bit less direct. The driveway that's there now, that exists to the west of this parcel, undoubtedly is insufficient for any usage that would be there to the east that would be built on this site. But the easement that it does allow for 24 feet of a driveway. I'm not talking a public road, I'm talking a 24-foot wide driveway that can accommodate two-way traffic. Now, again, our population is a senior population. Doesn't mean that they, people will have cars. Of course they will. But, we are providing 70 how many parking spaces? We're providing 65 parking spaces, 2 for every unit. And so, but we think that that's more than enough. In our experience, we have other senior residence buildings in Illinois, and really we're talking about, remember, what we are proposing is 32 residences. 28 of them will be 1-bedroom units. 4 will be 2-bedroom. By and large, the folks that are going to be in the 28 units, of course, there could be senior couples, but there's a lot of individuals. And really, not everyone has a car. And so in terms of traffic, yes, there will be more traffic, but it's pretty light considering you have a 3-acre site that's suitable for development. So I just wanted to make sure that is the consideration of what we're proposing and the responsiveness that I'm going to show you some pictures here if I can. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. Forgive us. It was just. Let me see if I can see that. Okay. So I just wanted to kind of point out that we spent some time trying to really be responsive. We want to be a good neighbor, and we do not want to create any issues. So some of the things that we wanted to point out that we did offer on this revised site plan is that not only do we move the building, reduce the footprint, pushed it further south, turned it around, but we do have a very dense landscaping screen there at the northwest in order to shield the single-family homes from our proposed residence building and our residents from the single-family homes, to give privacy to both parcels, to both properties, or all three properties. And that's something that we will maintain, and we want to have it just as much as the neighbors do. We also want to point out that we really, the space between if you take the northwest corner of the building, we're about 120 feet or so from the property line of the gentleman with the house to the northwest, the Bryce. So it's about 120 feet, and it's even further from the property line to the resident to the west. And so that really frees up a lot of space for green space on that, and really is, I think, is offering a lot of privacy for the residents, and our proposed residents, as well as the single family homes. One of the things also that we find that is needed often, I know that you have some senior apartments here in town, and I'm not sure exactly when they were built, but these accessibility codes change over time, improve. And, the idea of a new building for people that may have mobility issues and takes into account all of the code for fully accessible units is something that, may not exactly exist in town. And we find in a lot of communities that, if they have a little bit, some older senior apartments and so forth, that it's just not the same as the way they are built today. And so we think that this is a need that exists, and it really is a benefit to the community at large. You have people that are here in town, seniors. They don't want to take care of their roof. They don't want to mow their lawn. They don't want to shovel snow anymore. And this is an opportunity for them to stay in town, to be in a brand new, well-designed, environmentally sustainable construction, well-maintained community where they can be here with their family and their grandkids and nearby. And then by doing so, they're freeing up some of the single-family homes here in town for younger folks to move into, to rehab, to be part of the community. And so, I understand that there's going to be some objections, even with the changes that we have made. I'm not sure that anything but the status quo might be acceptable to some folks here, but the idea is that this is for the community as a whole. It's not simply for I just think that this is for the greater good of the community and something that should be considered for people. Everybody has some seniors. This is baby boomers are, this is just a huge demand that's everywhere in the country, and is here in Attica as well. So I'd like your consideration of that. This is a lot of preliminary plans still, as was pointed out. So we are still, refining. We're open to suggestions. We will be applying for financing to IHCDA for tax credit financing, just like the folks over here from Crestline. So it's a competitive process. It's no slam dunk, but there's a unique opportunity. They write these rules for how they assess these they allocate these tax credits. And every year they get an allocation, and there's a competitive process across the state. Every state in the union gets tax credits based upon their population. Indiana has tax credits. They allocate it to communities, developers proposing ideas based upon a set of rules. Those rules change year to year. And so this year, the stars have aligned in certain ways through their scoring system and points that Attica is very competitive. And so the opportunity is really now. I'm not saying that it won't come up again at another time in next year or following, but I don't know the answer. I know that this is an opportunity for Attica. That's why you have two developers that are proposing deals in town. So I want you to consider that, and in this, I wanted to just point out, as you mentioned at the outset of this, that there is an industrial zoning on the parcel, and obviously we're not proposing anything industrial, but the idea of something that could be pretty intense usage by right is allowed to be built there right now without asking for permission, other than plans and so forth. So That's a concern, and I think that the idea of a 32 units of seniors in a residence building is really will be a good neighbor, and will be an appropriate use for this parcel. So I appreciate your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the proposed project or our company or anything else like that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to go ahead and open up a 15-minute opportunity, or 3 minutes each, however it works out, for the public to present questions and concerns regarding this zoning request. And we'll hold the answers to that until they're done, and then we'll come back and give North Arrow 10 minutes to respond. So if anybody from the public has anything, please stand, state your name, and we'll start the clock. Yes. Yes, you, Mr. Crane. Sorry.
Jeff Crane, 1248 East Main Street here in Attica. I'd like to drop off a copy of the letter that we drafted that I'm going to read. We reduced it to writing to help keep our thoughts tight. So
Thank you.
for the record.
I've already read it, but
Okay, Ms. Broadwater, Attorney Bars, Mayor Grant, members of the council. Again, my name is Jeff Crane. I represent 7 residences that are directly to be affected by this proposal. So, and we are speaking to a proposal that is different from what you see. We originally got a plan. That plan has been changed. Our concerns do not change, and they are not affected by the change in this. Okay, just so real quick. As residents of the neighborhood of off Main Street, we are deeply concerned about the proposed development of this 32-unit subsidized senior housing on the 3-acre tract adjacent to our homes. It's important to clarify we are not opposed to the idea or in a position to debate the need for subsidized senior housing. The reason for the opposition to this development, while well-intentioned, poses significant impact to the adjacent neighborhood due to its scale and its close proximity to existing homes. I'd like to briefly speak to 3 primary issues, and I'll keep them as brief as I can. Firstly, the lack of a buffer between our homes and the proposed development is a major concern. A development of this magnitude, which includes 32 apartments, common areas, and a parking lot, will, not surprisingly, consume the entire 3-acre plot, leaving minimal space to mitigate the impact on the adjacent homes' narrow backyards. Landscape barriers are insufficient to address the light, the traffic, and the noise pollution that a 32-unit development will inevitably bring. Our neighborhood is a quiet, low-density neighborhood. This specific development would dramatically change that, and according to the objective analysis of an experienced local realtor, will negatively impact our property values. Secondly, the developer's proposal to offer a compromise by building a 2-story building to shrink the footprint is, in our opinion, unacceptable. The adjacent homes and commercial properties are all single-story homes and buildings. A 2-story building would be completely out of character with the surrounding area, causing a negative visual impact. Additionally, this particular tract of land is on a higher elevation than the neighboring homes. And you've all been out there to probably see that. Making a 2-story apartment building a structure that would quite literally tower over the homes. Any setback gain would not be enough to negate the imposition on privacy that a 2-story building on this lot would pose. Traffic and safety concerns. Thirdly, the lane proposed as access to the development is grossly inadequate for the traffic it will endure. The lane is currently private, with the main entrance to the proposed project only 10 feet from the garage of one of the homeowners. Utilizing this lane as an entrance and an exit for the development residents, visitors, deliveries, maintenance vehicles, employees, trash trucks, and emergency vehicles poses significant safety hazards and severely impacts the quality of life of the homeowners. The proposed alternative to build a lane on a different street doesn't resolve any of the other issues impacting existing property owners. We urge there be efforts to obtain a different location for a housing development of this scale that does not have the degree of negative impact on the existing residents. The thoughtful review of the suitability of this location is critical to the quality of life and the property values of existing homeowners. So in conclusion, we urge the city council to respect the zoning committee's 0-4 vote in opposition to this request and to respect their comments, acknowledging the significant negative impact that would occur if housing for this number of residents is built on this parcel. We support thoughtful and responsible development of our city and urge that a location for a project offering equal benefits to the community be more intentionally sourced. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Does anyone else have anything from the public this time?
There's somebody.
Oh, we do have somebody. Sorry.
Sorry, Gary Hill. I just have a question. My mother-in-law was in a similar facility, and there's a tremendous amount of trash. And I saw your drawing there, and I didn't see the trash collection location, but it would be overflowing. And then they would come in and clean it out, but it did cause a problem. So I just wondered in your drawing where that trash location would be for all the people.
In the preliminary drawing, it's right here right now. I don't know if you can see it, cursor. It's in to the immediate southeast of the corner of the building.
What's your access to that?
Well, again, it's through the parking lot. You would have it would come here, do a pickup, and then circle around. So the parking lot is a circle, essentially, and then it would come out. And just to be clear, too, about the access drive, we would pay for and improve the entire driveway all the way out to where it connects to Main Street. That would be part of the development cost.
That was one of the questions. I'll go ahead and jump ahead since you mentioned that was one of my questions. Who's going to improve the lot or the driveway? And then who's going to maintain it, and including snow plowing and so on in the wintertime? Is that going to be on the apartment complex as well?
Well, we should probably discuss, I'd have to discuss that with the property owner because I'm not the only person that uses it. And the residents will use it as our Mr. Myers with his company there. So in terms of there would have to be a maintenance agreement of some sort.
It's currently being negotiated between the seller and the buyer. One would think, there's another parcel there for sale that this lane is eventually going to serve, and then of course the homeowners. So if you're talking about just the part that turns, that should be maintained by North Arrow and Myers Steel Fabricating.
Correct.
Jeff has a question.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Crane.
Mr. Crane,
I was confined to a letter, so now I'm going to speak.
got 3 minutes.
Okay, I just want to address a couple things. We're here to speak to the request to rezone this to R3. Okay, not a conditional use, it's a rezoning, if I'm understanding it correctly, and that's what's on the table. There is a different process to go about. If my understanding of the people I've talked to is correct, there's a different process to build it as has been stated, as is. That can't be just automatically done. There is a process, there is a zoning appeals board that has to hear this. It's not an automatic, okay? And that board decides that, if my understanding is correct, not the council. So there is a different process. It's not an automatic. Okay, the second thing is the lane that goes to the property that's being proposed is at probably its greatest width, 20 feet. I don't think 24.
It's not 24.
It says 20 on the map.
It's 20 on the,
Let me interject.
20-foot easement.
I'm not sure how you're measuring. Are you measuring the lane that
Well,
is there now?
the easement
The
itself
property-
is 20
property that
feet
is
per
owned
the
between
property
Martin
description.
and the Brazos.
Description on the property is 20 feet.
And
20
the stakes
feet,
are in
20
the wrong
I
place,
would also add this.
obviously.
20 feet, 24 feet, doesn't really matter. The reason why I looked it up today, state code for a lane of traffic on a highway is 9 feet per lane, 18 feet. So if we have 20, we're fine. If we have 24, it's even better. And then the next thing I would add about that is this is not a city street where it cannot be widened because property owners own property to the sides. All the interested parties own this land. It's all private land, including the lane itself. So if the real concern here is the width of the lane, the property owners can just widen the lane. It's not hard.
It's the property owners meaning the
Property
developer.
owners would be Meyer Steel Fabricating, North Arrow Partners, and Larry Browse.
In that previous, that previous map, can you say
Larry,
previous map?
Am I
show you where the property lines are?
Larry, am I incorrect that you own the property to the south, a majority of the property to the south of that lane?
Can
All
I
the
show you
partners,
what I own?
all of the partners.
Sure. If it's up on the map, go
Can I
ahead.
show you? Can you get back to the other map, that shows the streets? This is 20 feet wide, and easement shows it on every description I've seen.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
These people going down this street have to wait here. It's one way. There's mailboxes right here. And how in the world are all these cars gonna get out to here where we wait of an evening between 4 and 6 o'clock for maybe 15, 20 cars coming from Lafayette? We have a real traffic problem on 28. And this here is 11 feet from Jeff Martin's garage. This,
And a small portion of that curb is on our property right now.
this right here is on
There.
there.
Can I ask this? Who built the garage 11 feet from the other person's property?
It's within zoning.
It did not
When we
have,
bought this
let me
property-
back up though a little bit, Larry. We had to go out and stop that from being built because they did not have a building permit that was approved. We went out,
No,
and
that's
correct me if I'm wrong, but
That is not incorrect. We have a building permit.
We did
It
have
was
it
never
on-
you got one, but it was after the building was
Absolutely
already
not.
started.
We did the building and the pool at the same time, both signed off by the
And the
city
pool
before.
still doesn't have a fence around it.
It doesn't have that fence around it.
Yes, it
It's got a
does.
cover-
Per-
gotta have a hard
per
cover.
city
It's
code.
got a- It has a hard cover.
It's a hard cover, right?
Okay,
It's one or the other.
okay.
There was,
guy
there
that
was
started
absolutely
it.
a permit.
I'll tell you what you're thinking about. I started covering a porch here 2 years ago.
And that may have been it,
And I
Larry.
never got a permit, but I already had my foundation, so I thought, Warren County, if you got a foundation, you can build on it.
Okay, that may be what I'm thinking of. I apologize.
But this is the real problem here.
Can I finish my piece?
Sure, you
It's kinda like-
still got time left.
Well, I just kind of felt like I got
We've got 3
hijacked
minutes
a little.
left.
I'm just trying to keep everybody
No,
on.
I understand. But what we're saying is, Martin's, and that previous, do you have that previous slide that shows the strip that was deeded to the Martins? Okay. This right here, this section right here, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, and Sherry, but that was deeded to the Martins, and that, now you're measuring here to here, this width, not this width.
I understand.
Okay, so this width, I don't know that this exceeds 20 feet. I venture to say it doesn't. But even so, you can't impede upon the other people's properties.
I understand that.
To expand the lane. You're only gonna go as far as you can go.
Correct.
The other part is that doesn't solve the entrance to that property. This is the only way. We're not talking about hypotheticals or what ifs, or if you can get other things. This is it. You've all seen it. That is the lane that goes to this thing. And there's 32 residents and all the cars that come back and forth. I don't care if it's 20 feet wide or not, it's still tight. And there's still, that compounds the problems that we already have up there with the limited amount of residents and the traffic that goes in and out of that lane. It just compounds it. So that's the other thing. But we're talking about what's submitted here. That's the plan right there, not entrances or exits somewhere else.
Just because they sell the property doesn't
Let
mean
me,
he's.
Jeff, can I clear something up? The
Sure.
letter you wrote,
It's
read
still
at the
20 foot
beginning,
easement. I don't care how you
I
say
believe
it.
it contained a section that said if the developer was willing to grant access or to get a different access, let's say from Long Avenue and bringing it in. The letter said you still weren't You still didn't,
What
you're
I
still
said,
fighting this.
what I said is it
If-
does not change
even
these
if you-
concerns. That's
Okay.
what I said.
Okay, so even if we bring in, if they bring in a driveway from a different direction, it doesn't change the standpoint of the community. You still don't want to approve
Well-
this, so why are we even debating this?
I'm not, because we're not
Would be my
debating a
question.
hypothetical, Brian.
Why is it even an issue?
We're-
Because
we're not-
he said
because-
that's the only way in right now. But he said Long Avenue isn't an option.
And we're not, I'm not here to talk about what could be. What the proposal is right here is the lane that goes into it. And as that is proposed, it's not acceptable.
I will correct on one thing though here. I just consulted with the attorney. Just because that strip of land was deeded off and sold, or however it came about, doesn't reduce the easement down through there. The easement, I don't care if Jerry Myers sells me that whole strip of land, I still have to honor that easement of 20 feet down through there.
It does.
So,
With that land gone, there is 20 feet, right?
well, somebody just said it wasn't.
Larry, and I'm not
Lane of
disputing what
traffic
you're
is 9
saying.
feet.
Would it not, wouldn't the deed speak to that? Wouldn't the deed say that the easement is either vacated
Well,
or
you-
not?
If you have an easement through my property and I sell it to whoever, that by law, that still has to be honored. You
Well, let me
can't-
ask the attorney, is
And I did.
an easement ever vacated? Is there a
You
way
can
that,
vacate an easement, but there's notice to the owners. There's a whole procedure to vacate an easement. It wouldn't
are
just
we
be
certain that
wiped out.
that wasn't done?
Are we certain that what wasn't done?
That the easement was not indeed vacated? In other words, you're going the assumption that that easement still exists, and it may not. You said there's a process that they
Did you
could
get
have
notice
gone
of
about,
the
maybe
easement?
they did.
Were you closed on the property?
Have I closed?
on a property?
No, not you. Have you closed, Mr. Cronin?
No, I have not closed.
Okay, so they've not closed on the property, so they wouldn't have vacated the easement. The easement is still there, and if I don't think they're going to, because then you would all be landlocked and you would
no.
have a prescriptive
I'm talking
easement.
about the transaction between the Myerses and the Martins.
I haven't seen the deed. I wouldn't know.
So I guess that's the point. That's what I'm trying to make. You don't know that it has been or hasn't been vacated.
That's fair.
Normally, every deed is made subject to all easements, rights of way, except, et cetera, running through the property.
Normally, that's maybe true, but maybe this piece has that exception. It's possible. And we don't know that. And we're voting on something that we don't know.
Yeah,
So
Mr.
if it-
Myers might know that.
If it has indeed been vacated, we are dealing with a narrower strip. And we're making a decision based on that.
Or maybe the Martins know that. I don't know.
Again, I would suggest this doesn't really matter.
Correct.
The argument is
You have
not,
the deed?
is not important.
Okay.
Because they don't care where the entrance is.
We've exceeded the 15
Yeah,
minutes.
we've exceeded the minutes here. We're
into
down
the
to,
community, the 10 minutes. which is
10-minute opportunity for North Arrow and their partners to answer any public questions that came up in the last. And I've
Well, I mean,
lost
I
track
think-
of what those are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything, a lot of the comments that you talked about, Mr. Crane, was kind of seemingly, a lot of it was based on the prior footprint of the building, prior site plan. I think that some of those objections that you made, or a good number of them, we tried to address. I understand that it is a two-story building, but we pushed it further away. And it's a residence building, a gable roof. You know, it's not any different than a two-story home in many respects. And so with the landscaping buffer, with the building rotated so that any comings and goings or lighting, I'm not saying that there won't be a light or a little bit of landscape lighting around the patio in the back, but in terms of any parking lot lighting or anything is on the other side of the building, away from residences. So we really tried to be sensitive to addressing your concerns as best we could. And I think that what we have, I mean, in some ways, as you know, I mean, we've sacrificed some of the best views and so forth in order to make sure that we fit into the neighborhood. And so I think that that's the effort that we've made, and we want to continue to. Like we said, this is a preliminary initial drawing. There will be a lot of refinement. I recognize that the access is a point of contention. We want to have proper access for our residents as well. We're not looking to have a problem. And so we think that as a driveway, which is what it is a driveway, that this can work and this can be sufficient for our residences. So I just want you to consider that when you're considering this application, and then also to keep in mind that, you know, there are other opportunities. It is being actively marketed, and if it's not us, it's somebody's coming, okay? I mean, you've experienced a lot, which is a good thing. You've experienced growth in this community. You have new commercial properties that are being built. It's not it's not going to stay this way forever. And so I think that this is a use that I think would be a one that would be in keeping. We would be a good neighbor. And I think that there could be more intensive uses here by right that these homeowners would find much more objectionable. And so I know that that's not on the table, but I'm just saying, I think that this would be a really good fit for this location. And
Are you planning on paving that entrance
yes,
from 28 all the way through?
To where it connects to Main Street, that whatever's shown on here.
Discussion and questions from the city council members?
Is this our time too?
Yes.
Okay. I wrote a couple notes back from when we met before, so I'm kind of going back off. So I tried to keep them where they were just like maybe yes or no questions, or like very
That's okay.
simple questions. So you mentioned at the zoning meeting that you keep your properties. And that you keep, North Arrow keeps their properties, you don't sell them off.
That's correct.
So does North Arrow develop, or does North Arrow manage them?
We do not manage our property.
Okay.
But we do own the properties.
Okay.
So we will own it, just to be clear. And this senior use is not something that can change. This gets written into an extended use agreement that's recorded against the property. It must be senior. It's not going to change, and we're going to flip it into something else. I'm not going anyplace, God willing. I mean, you know, so the property is going to be with us for 40 years. And so that's the hope.
You said that you had other senior residents or facilities. Can you just tell me some of the names of those that you
Sure.
currently
We have some, I have a picture so I can show you.
Oh, okay, great.
Oh, you know what? It's on my other drive.
I'm sorry. No, it's okay.
Oakfield Place in Henry, Illinois.
Okay.
We have senior residence buildings, two of them, one in Newton, Illinois, and one in Robinson, Illinois, not too far away. So I can show you, this is a photo of one of our projects. This is a single story.
Is that called, what does it say?
This is in, we have a project in Marine, Illinois, which is Madison County. It's kind of east of St. Louis area in Marine, next to Highland, Illinois.
Okay.
So, you know, we've been at this for about 25 years. So, and we want to make sure, and like I said, we're architects. We care about how it looks. We're general contractors. We don't self-perform. And one of the other benefits that I wanted to point out too is that, you know, obviously the focus is for the residents that need a new, safe, accessible home. But we also want to buy local. So we're going to hire subcontractors that are local, some material suppliers, cabinetry, flooring, as best we can. We try to do that. So that's another thing I want to point out.
That's nice. So you said like Grandview, so this is Grandview at the top.
This is Grandview Senior Residences. This is a 24-unit, single-story senior residence building in Marine, Illinois.
Okay.
This is also a tax credit property, so yes, it
But
has.
you said 24 units, and you told us at the last meeting that it would be profitable to drop down the amount of.
This was in Illinois. This was at a different time. This was done a couple of years ago. This is prior to the huge increases in costs in construction and interest rates.
So who manages these properties?
So we have a couple of property managers that we work with. We have a group called Bedrock Housing, or Bedrock Property Management. They're based in Springfield. I don't think that they will be managing this property. So
Well, that was my next question. Will your company over there?
No.
It'll be.
So we have
somebody
we'll have a Indiana.
Okay. Okay. And then, sorry, I'm just going back to my notes. So then a follow-up was, I know you said that you would not change ones that says it's a senior residence, it's 55 and up. So my question is, what happens if you don't fill? That might be maybe a silly question. Maybe that doesn't happen.
We think there's enough demand here,
Okay.
and we have to. That's just the way it is. If it doesn't fill, then we just
I'm sorry, I don't
lose
want
a lot of money.
I was not trying to, that sounds super negative, and I don't want somebody to not succeed. I just was curious how that works if it were to sit for a little bit of time or something like that.
We're here to try to find homes for Attica residents. So these are so our primary market area is really just Attica and the surrounding area. There's enough demand for 32 senior homes.
Okay. So like you said before, that demographic doesn't change. So with that demographic, let's say on a 2-bedroom, is there where you said it's a 55 plus, does that mean everybody has to be 55 and over to
That's
live
correct.
there? So
Yes.
if
No
there's
grandchildren,
Okay.
no.
nothing like that? Okay. We answered that
Good
one already. Oh, sorry.
This is a good question.
I thought long and hard about a lot of these. I was curious. So if in a 1-bedroom unit, and the same with the 2-bedroom, with the 1-bedroom unit, I'm guessing, is there a limit on people? How many people can live in a 1-bedroom?
2, I think.
Okay, I'm.
I
listen,
think so.
I would agree with
feel
that.
free. I'm happy to answer your questions. So yeah, I think it's 2. I believe. Yes.
And you already asked that. So you had said at the last meeting that it would be low-income residents. It could be low-income residences or apartments. And I don't remember if we talked about this or not. How is that determined?
So the units are the way that we split it up by area median income. Okay, so your units are designated as a certain percentage of area median income.
I remember you saying a portion of this now. I'm sorry.
So the area median income for Attica is a little over $60,000 per year. So we will have units that are different percentages, but many of them will be 50 to 60% of area median income.
Okay.
Which means that for the 60% unit, the limit of an income, not assets, but income, would be like $37,000 for a senior.
I think okay. Let's see. So I did a little bit of research, or I was trying to do a little bit of research, and I don't remember if it was, Grandview sparked my memory because I was on your website looking at everything. So I know you had mentioned and shook your head when somebody else said it, but when I was looking back at some of the other ones, maybe the ones you built, maybe the ones you don't manage anymore, or the ones that you keep hold of, some of the properties that I found that you had built, they actually do accept Section 8. So how does this one accept Section 8?
It does not. I mean, no, there is no project-based rental assistance on this property.
Okay.
And there isn't.
There would never be a chance for that.
They don't do that in Indiana. So
Okay.
that's the way it's just not done.
Okay.
So in Illinois, they do have rental assistance that they provide. It's not Section 8 exactly, but it's a rental assistance that can be designated for certain units especially when we have like a permanent supportive housing. If we were to do homes for people with disabilities, a lot of those projects will have rental assistance as a way to make the rent exceptionally low for that person with that disability.
Okay.
That's not here.
Like I said, the ones that I had looked up, and the ones I had looked up actually said Section 8 they did accept Section 8 on the ones I had looked up.
So there's vouchers, which are portable. There's portable vouchers that go with people that are Section 8 vouchers. And then there's rental assistance that's designated as part of on the property, not the person.
Okay. Let's see. And then you had said earlier, this was one I want to make sure you would also be asking for a tax abatement. That was
Potentially.
Okay. And then I know you had mentioned, I was wondering, had you considered any other locations in Attica? And I only ask this because I'm looking at the location, and these were the notes that I had. It said, you mentioned on one of your papers at the top, it said quality of life in your plans. That was at the top of it, which makes complete sense. And I said, the accessibility for me, it seemed like in that particular area for that demographic seems low, just because some might have a car, some might not have a car. It's not really close to like the grocery store or the dollar store or the pharmacy, the library. And I was more looking for like grocery store, pharmacy. We do have a pharmacy that does deliver though, so I will say that. So that's a good thing. But I just didn't know if that was even, I just worry about accessibility there for the
Right.
residents.
Let me make a distinction. There's accessibility, which has to do with the building and
Oh, sorry,
the
okay.
residents, and this is like more about walkable
Okay.
walkable development. Yes, of course, we would prefer it to be a walkable, to have a grocery store right next door, that you could walk to the post office, you could walk. Stars didn't align that way in Attica at this time. And so, that's a, when you look at the ups and downs of a site, if it was more walkable, that would be great. But I think it's in a good spot. It's close to things, but it's true. It's mostly drivable here.
And yeah, you're right. It is close to things. It's just maybe not the things that they would, it's not the top priority, I guess I would say. I think that's all that I have for right
Can I help
now.
on an answer to that? About it? It was not our first choice. We looked at numerous locations. Very difficult to find a property for sale within city limits of Attica. That should be very evident to the city council with your struggles trying to find a new location for the fire station and the ambulance shed. Okay, we did have another site that we liked very well, and we chose not to pursue it for zoning reasons, really. But it's a great site. We finally came down to it because we thought it was the perfect, I know the people arguing against it are concerned about it. They think we're bringing in this horrible thing. But the second I saw this property, I immediately thought, what a great use of land. What a great buffer for this neighborhood against the back of commercial buildings. They're not looking at the back of these ugly old commercial buildings anymore. It's protecting them against new industrial. It's protecting them, it's giving them a buffer against the hotel. It's, and I don't know a lot about zoning, but I did peek into it a little bit. And everything I've read was multifamily housing or landscaping screens is the buffer between commercial and residential. It was not our first choice.
I get it. That makes sense too. So I just want to make sure, I know that he's saying that there's no chance of Section 8. That's my only thing, because all the ones that I had looked up that were on there listed Section 8. I even actually reached out to one of the properties.
We have projects in Iowa that don't have that either.
Okay, that was one of my big. Wait, I thought we were on H.
We are.
It doesn't say anything about a time limit on
We
that.
don't have time limit on the council.
Okay. So, sorry.
We're done with.
I was
Take your
concise. I
comments.
got all I had lots of questions.
Here, unless there's a question.
No, that was all that I had written down. But I do have something else to say, but I don't think it's necessarily the time right now to say it. I think it's more for questions.
Okay, well, we're in discussion and questions for the city council and myself right now, so.
So go ahead and say it.
So you can,
Okay.
This is your time.
Okay, so my other concern was, and I wrote it out because it's just easier for me. I said, overall, I think this is really rushed for us to have to make a decision. This project has been in my email since June 21st, so 1 month and 1 day that we've known about it. Others have known about this project a lot less time. We have concerned citizens that it's directly affecting, and because the time constraints being placed on us because of possible funding, it seems urgent that we make a decision right now. If this is a huge concern, which it looks like it is to me, we should be doing better, and we should be taking the time to really delve into the deep issues here, whether it be for this project right now or something that might be coming down the pipeline, because it could be, whatever that is, or this. But we need to not hurry over this. We have people concerned. And my biggest thing that I want to take away from this is we don't fit a timeline. We've never fit a good timeline. We've never done that. We have waited and taken months to make less impactful decisions. And this is a very impactful decision for people. And we've taken months to change different things. We have citizens that care and that are showing up and are here today, and we should take the time to listen and consider all of their issues, no matter what we want. We should be listening to a group as a whole and to each other, because all of us have great ideas. It's good that maybe if we don't agree or we see something differently, I want to hear what we have to say too. So,
Yeah.
I'll shut up there.
No, that's fine. Does anybody else have anything on the council? Any questions, comments?
I do, but I'll go last.
I did have a question as far as EMS and fire and what kind of accessibility would they have in a lane like that? Troy, do you have any thoughts on that?
We've never had a bad backer for anything, so
Right.
something we may have to try and see too. I don't know. I think we probably could. I mean, we've been, pretty tight squeezes around town, so.
Probably better than Brady Street.
Yeah, that's what I was
Or McDonald.
Yeah, McDonald Street.
I think if we had a problem back here, we'd be able to get to it.
With the issues though, if you've got two cars coming down that road, how's, you know what I'm saying? Or if you got two fire trucks going in to get refilled or whatever, or access water.
Well, they'd be hydrated, so you wouldn't be doing that. There'd be hydrants back there.
But you would have multiple emergency
These are-
vehicles going in.
We're on the council up here now. I don't want to be rude to anybody, but we've passed that part. The question that I had from up here is kind of along that same line in that I think, was it Mr. Kraft pointed out that the state highway is only 18 feet wide, 18 and a half feet wide. So if you can pass two trucks on the state highway, you should be able to pass two trucks back there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a road guy, but if you make that 20 feet wide, you should be able to pass two vehicles back there. I think that's probably not, that doesn't hold water. And Larry, if you want to comment, go
The
ahead.
state highway is a lot wider than 18 feet, it's closer to 40 or 50.
To who?
Maybe the entire width of the side of the road and all that, but the actual roadway is how wide. The actual part you drive on, the
40
two
I
lanes
think
are
it's
how
40
wide.
feet.
Huh?
I think it's 40 feet, then they got that.
So you've got two 20-foot lanes to drive in on the highway?
I
don't
have to
think
stick
so.
to
Okay,
Andy.
I found this on the web.
Siri's trying to pay attention to me.
The city of Attica requires 50 foot.
If we're gonna make it a road, and that just means that that's a city street, and that means sidewalks, buffer between the houses and so on. I'm talking about the roadway that you drive on, out on the highway, line to line, how wide is that? And you're not gonna convince me that that's 40 feet.
And what if you have foot traffic walking to Pizza Hut? Where are they gonna walk?
That's my
On our
question, Mary.
property?
It's, the question I had was, you mentioned this lane being a certain width. And the developer mentioned something about foot traffic and being able to walk and walkability. I've seen nothing about where they.
And I think that's a good question. Are we gonna have a sidewalk to get out to the highway? How are you gonna, unless you walk out in that road, how are you gonna get there? I think that's an excellent question, Jeff.
And that's safety. That's safe.
By the way, the regular width of a regular freeway is 12 feet minimum
No,
per lane.
since everybody else is
Freeway.
jumping in,
Per lane.
I have the code right here.
Trying to control things here a little bit.
Okay. Indiana State Code 45-1.0101, width. Travel lane width can vary from 9 foot through 12 foot depending on the functional classification, traffic volume, design speed, rural or urban location, and project scope of work. The tables in chapter 3, yada, yada, yada. It's Indiana code.
Plus shoulder.
This is a private driveway. This is not a highway, it's not an interstate.
It's not a city
I-74
street.
here.
It's not
This
going.
is not I-74.
I get what you're saying, and I get what these guys are saying, but my point is, I'm not worried about vehicles passing each other in a 20-foot lane. If you've got 20 feet and you can't get past somebody, you need to go probably get your eyes checked or
What are
something.
we gonna do when they meet us at the intersection coming up?
And that was gonna be my next question. You mentioned you're getting your mail out there, right?
Yeah, so we.
Where are these people gonna get their mail at? Are they also
In
gonna
the
have to
building.
get their mail out there? Or are they gonna get it
No,
delivered
no,
back
no.
to the building?
I would like to make it back in the building. We'll have a mail. They don't have to go out to the roadway to get it.
So do we know that? I mean, these
I don't
guys
have
probably
that.
would prefer not to go out to the roadway to get
Who's
it,
gonna
but
maintain our road? Because my address is 1226 East Main and your address is 1228, correct?
Yes.
So how many people are gonna come down to my house looking for 1228 to be next door, and it's up on the other street. Who's gonna maintain our road and pay for all the extra traffic that will be coming down our road because people can't find that address?
Can you just put a sign up?
Maybe we
saying-
could have a little wayfinding sign
Yeah,
that says the Finch on.
we've digressed here.
We need to stick to the council comments, please. Past public
Yeah.
comment.
Appreciate that. Any other council comments or questions? Mr. Moss, did you say you had something?
Yeah. For as long as I can remember being in this town, I remember everybody, especially being on the council, talking about how we need to grow and move forward into the future, but yet somehow keep our identity. You know, how else are we going to do this if we don't build something somewhere? Do I say that we ignore our citizens with concerns about this? Absolutely not. But along the same lines, if you guys wanted to have control of this area so closely, why did you pass up the opportunity to purchase the land and do with it as you wish?
Can I answer that?
Absolutely.
Mr. Kraft comes along, convinced this guy's worth $350,000. We thought we had a lot for 90 a couple of years
I
ago.
bet it seems like a bargain now.
We've been getting that for him still.
We tried to buy it.
You know,
Hindsight.
Respond to that, Nathan?
thing is,
I'll make it
is
real quick.
sure.
No,
Yeah, let's
Sorry,
keep
we gotta-
going.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Then, yeah, of course, it can be developed as you wish. You know,
Why should we have to buy all the property around us?
because you
All
want to
right.
control it.
we need to stick to the
Yeah.
council, please.
But, and the thing is that this council's dedicated to growing this town. We all should be dedicated to growing this town, not for ourselves, but for the people we leave behind. My son, our grandkids, why are they going to want to stay here if we don't care about making it someplace that they want to be a part of? And we are, as a council, here to protect the interests of our citizens. And the relationship with them should be a very important priority to the developers. But, are we going to have more concern for your investments than you are? I really feel that there are true statements on both sides of this. And I think there's some lesser things on both sides of this. I do think that the entry should be put on Long Street. I think that's something that we could all agree with. I look in this room and I see a lot of people that I know are people of enterprise, people of getting things done. None of you guys would have been in the positions that I know some of you are in if you weren't people that did the impossible. And I'm sure you're the same. You all are people that people like me look up to and respect because of what you've been able to accomplish in your life. And I don't want to do anything or say anything to make you guys think that I'm trying to detract from that. You have definitely earned this respect, all of you. I think that if that is such a priority that the entry on the other side, every single opportunity and avenue should be explored to see if that could be a possibility. This is something that is good for the community. Is it an actual exact perfect fit? That's yet to be seen. Since it has been, turned down to control the property personally, that by action makes it that you must be open for compromise. But they have a lot of legitimate concerns that really we all agree with. I can, without speaking for everybody, we do not want Section 8 homes there. There needs to be something in the contract for this. If it needs to be rezoned, that it will never be Section 8 without any kind of approval from this council, which I hope never needs to be granted. We're all going to have to be open to compromise to some of this, because if not now, when? If not here, where? If we don't, Attica remembers. We remember our own. But if we don't grow and do something and make these changes, there's not going to be an Attica. There's not going to be anybody to remember anything we've done. Nobody will care. And it'll be just like none of us ever existed at all. You know, I really truly think that they have some legitimate concerns, a tree line or a fence or something that keeps this away from them. We have an option. Do you want a smaller building with a larger footprint or 2-story, smaller footprint? It's a give and take. Neither one of them tastes good, you know. You know, I mean, we do have a lot of questions. We are a council that I like to think we look before we leap. We like being educated. We sometimes do take a long time to make simple decisions and that's very much true, you know. We need to know specifics about these things. And if there is a compromise that can be found, we should entertain this. We really should. If we keep shooting down these ideas, what developer would want to even attempt it? Rhetorically asking, would any of you, if you'd seen mountains like that? I know I wouldn't. I'd just let it wither and die on the vine. These are all things we need to consider. You know, I would like to see something happen. I would like to see a compromise made. If it can't, then we'll see what happens down the chute. If it's not a fit, if it's not something that can work for us, then that so be it. But we can't keep passing up on opportunities of people who want to invest in our community. You know, for the greater people. This could be a lot of tax revenue that could be good for us. It could help us accomplish a lot of the things that a lot of our citizens want us to do. You know, where are we going to make up that tax revenue if it continues staying like that? How about all the other properties that lie undeveloped? You know, we've been preaching about change and growth. And that's something that we need to consider. You know, but that being said, citizens do have, and we have legitimate concerns. I think that this is something that I've heard about a timeline here. What timeline are we on as far as this decision needing to be made?
7 days.
7 days. Wow. Is that by the end of the month?
And that's driven by,
That's
Not by them.
That's by the financing application.
Is this enough time to actually iron any of this stuff out?
well, and I guess my question would be, is another week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? Is that going to change anything?
It could.
And that's where my questions are going to come from here when it's my turn.
You know, I think that these need to be addressed and we need to revisit this before they are due. I mean, this is rushed, and I tell you, we look before we leap. We want to know exactly what we're going to be a part of. They deserve to know what is going to be going on right next to them.
Yes, because the driveway does come in on the Martin's property.
And
We seen the other day.
yeah, I've seen, and you know, there's a lot up in the air about that needs to be ironed out as well. There's a lot of questions apparently about your guys' division that need to be ironed out. You know,
I don't think the driveway itself goes across their property per se.
It's very close.
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It doesn't cross our property line. It just runs
It's
right on
close.
one side.
Right. Yeah, it's very close.
10 feet, 6 inches from a garage door.
I think this is in the best interest of the larger group, but we're not going to cut off toes. You know,
Well, then
may scrunch them back a little bit, but not cut them off.
my other question was going to be, I pointed out at the beginning of the meeting that half of this property is already zoned light industrial. So a company comes in and they announce that they're going to build a light industrial complex back there on this property.
Nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing we can do.
That?
What?
Can we answer that?
Absolutely. I'd love to
We
hear
have 3 large commercial buildings along the highway that have sat empty for several years. We're not worried about somebody building a new one back there.
I understand, but it's zoned light industrial.
Maybe we should rezone it then.
It's small, it's a very.
Jerry
small-
Myers would have to do that.
It's a small area though, right?
It's half of that lot, so it's about an acre and a half, roughly.
On the backside by the motel, as
Yes.
I understand.
Yes, it's
So
right there.
I'd like to make a motion for continuance till these things can either be ironed out or
So then,
more important.
so then if we continue this, I don't know, let's say 5 days, a week, whatever, what's gonna change?
Possibly a lot, possibly nothing.
I mean,
We owe it to ourselves to explore that though.
Rhonda, you haven't said anything, and I'd probably cut you off.
No, I mean, I think we owe it to the people that all live down there also. I mean, they've put a lot of hard-earned money in their properties down
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
But, and then my other question is, and I wrote it down here, is there any room for compromise? Will any of you change your mind if we wait a week? Or if they bring it in off, say they pull off Miracle and they bring it in off of Long Avenue over there
Well,
somehow.
How many months you think that'll take to get that off?
I don't know. I'm just, if somebody can wave a magic wand today, make it come off there, would it change anybody's mind? Would you say, oh yeah, we could accept that? Yeah, we'll do that. Is there anybody here that would say that? And
Well-
from what I'm getting, I'm not getting that feeling.
When we were at the first meeting, the advisory.
Yeah.
meeting, or the zoning meeting, we asked about that. And the response that we got was that financially it wouldn't work to scale this back. Okay, this is different than what we originally saw. I'm not gonna speak for everybody and say that, we'd be open to, approve something. I think anything that changes warrants a conversation about it. And if it came back with 10 units and was faced a different direction and there was a different entrance, I mean, it warrants us to at least consider that. So I think, to answer your question, Mayor, I think we'd be silly to say no to that.
Okay.
But it's, as presented right now and as this appears right now, it still doesn't solve the problems, and it still impedes on the Martins' privacy and their quality of life. It still impedes on our property values. And those are a couple of the things that we talked about.
Do you have a contact in your group that could talk to these guys? As far as, if we're gonna table this, they're gonna have
I'm
to
gonna be
come
honest
up
with
with
you,
some
I don't
kind of
wanna table
compromise.
this. I have been sick all week. This is, I mean, seriously, I know you've gotten phone calls. It's been consuming.
It has.
It has been
But
consuming.
we gotta do the right thing here, and we gotta be fair.
I agree,
Can I make a comment?
Sure, Larry.
These guys act like this is the only property in town to build on. You go downtown, they're tearing all them buildings down. What are we gonna do with that property? About the whole.
We've already got plans
That's
for
an
that
easy
property.
answer.
Do what?
That's an easy answer. We tried to put apartments there, it was quashed. No, nobody wants apartments there. You can't build on that property for 4.5 years.
That's
We
just
tried to
one
put
property.
we tried to fit this everywhere in this town, Larry. This is what I do. It's why I wake up in the morning. It's what I do all day long. You aren't putting this anywhere
Can I
else in this
ask you-
town. I've
Can
tried.
I ask
Hey,
you one
You're a
question?
land speculator, go do it.
Hey, you know
Okay.
what? We actually do have a property. This isn't gonna be a popular. You know what I'm gonna say. We're fighting about it right now. The riverfront. I know that's not popular. and I
can't
know we
build
got
at the
plans.
You
riverfront.
couldn't build it down
It's a
there.
floodplain, you
Yeah.
cannot
All
build
the
at
way
the
back, all the
riverfront.
way to the back.
Oh,
There were
it's
houses there.
Oh, no.
It's
It's
a
still
floodplain.
floodplain.
It's all
We
floodplain, you
can't
can't
build
build
a
on
house
it.
there.
Can't do it.
So, but we're gonna.
We got,
But
isn't
if
there,
they-
That's a whole other.
isn't there property behind you guys though, that they were looking at in the
I have
long-term
no
plan?
idea.
Not behind you,
Since
behind,
2019, this is the ninth housing property I've worked on in the city limits of Attica and Williamsport. 9. I'm sorry, I've worked on 5. I've seen 9 properties, developments, apartment complexes, housing subdivisions, whatever. 9 in 5 years. Guess how many have been approved? 0. We as a community are 0 for 9. It is pathetic. 0 for 9. Now, there's a couple now that have some
It's not done
problems.
deal yet, but yeah.
Just because we're
This is
kids
the right
doesn't mean
one.
we don't deserve similar
I
consideration.
know, it sounds like we're being forced to be
Yeah.
the first ones or
Just
something.
because we're the last one doesn't mean we're a better option.
Well, we've digressed again
You'll
here,
decide.
folks. Let's reel it in here. So what do you want to do, council?
I want more time to see if we can iron this out or not. I think it's a big thing.
Can I say something real quick?
So we can continue this until, not right now, please. We're done with public comments. Don't mean to be rude,
No,
but
that's-
gotta keep things halfway on track here. So.
Well, do we need a vote tonight?
What's going to change?
Is the only thing that's, I mean,
Nothing's gonna change.
I'm saying,
nothing's
is
gonna
any-
change, we should go ahead and vote.
John is saying nothing's going to.
Well, I mean, I'm
no,
not sure what else we can do in a few days. I mean, I understand that this is on your plate, and it would, if we had, we could resolve our differences, that would be great, but I'm really, given a couple of days, I'm not sure how much can change. I'm not sure what else we can do. I will say that in terms of the Long Street or Long Avenue, I'm willing to look at that, to try to find that if that's a possibility. It does require, or you could potentially come through the Burke Metal Fabricating straight down. That's a little bit funky too, because there's a billboard there and stuff. But anyway, there are other opportunities, but I don't have that before you today. I'm willing to pledge to look into it, but I don't, and try to investigate and try to make it happen. But I cannot, that's not what's on the table.
You said a week, what's the drop dead date? Is that-
1 week from today.
So the 29th, if
That's
we made a
correct.
decision on the 29th,
Well, it's due on we have to turn it in. I don't know the exact deadline. 5 p.m. or 4:30 or something like that.
Friday is the farthest you can continue this out.
that would be the 26th. It's Friday. It's the end of this week.
We need to have a quorum present.
Can everybody be here for that? If we
On Friday?
postpone it? Yeah.
For 26th?
I think I
I'm
can.
supposed to be leaving town on.
That's my birthday.
Well, happy
Birthday.
birthday.
Happy
We'll
birthday.
bring
to
you
you.
a
I'll be halfway to 70. So I could live there.
There you go.
Mayor, what's the purpose of the extension again? I'm sorry. I don't understand why we're looking to push this. 5 days.
Nate proposed that we give it a little bit more time to look at alternate ways in and
Okay, I just didn't,
maybe
Which is
address
fine, but John
some
is
of the
saying, but John's saying that there's not, he doesn't think that that's gonna be a possibility.
I'm not sure I can come back in a couple days' time and have a
Like a, for
silver
sure,
bullet,
yeah.
like something that's teed up.
And I don't know
In
how
that
any of that
short of
works.
a time frame. I recognize your concern, but I have to be realistic about what's possible.
So do we push it out or we want to vote?
I want to vote.
Got a motion to vote. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion to vote, have a second. This will be an individual vote rather than a group vote. So we'll start with you, Mr. Roderick.
I
Yea or
vote no.
Kaylee?
Well, based on the information ahead of us, I don't know if I can have it go forward. I'd vote no.
3 noes. Rhonda?
I vote no.
4 noes. Anything else?
Disappointing. Necessary.
And I wish we could find a good spot. I wish we could find something south of town. That's where we got a lot of construction going. It just seems like if we could do something out there, it would be much more fitting. That's the way I feel.
Okay. Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.